Hello, so I'm here. It's Miles Clayton, Agility PR. So we're back for the second of a series of 5 vodcasts that I'm putting together with a bunch of agency bosses on the B2B technology side, principally, and also talking to other people in the ecosystem. So we're going to speak to some digital marketing agencies, and we may even take a peek in-house into the world of enterprise tech in-house marketing. Anyway, to introduce today, we've got Sarah Lafferty. She is a co-founder of Round Earth Consulting, and Round Earth Consulting are firmly focused in the B2B technology space. They're working with a number of tech firms that are either looking for additional funding, so they've gone through probably 1 or 2 rounds of funding already, and they're at that stage of hyper growth in many cases. And over to you, Sarah, just to talk a bit more detail about how you go about your stuff.
Yeah, well, that was a great introduction, Miles. I don't have too much more to add. But our clients are software clients mainly, and we have quite a bit of expertise in supply chain and data related technologies and what what we call the modern web stack. And yeah, we work with high growth, kind of ambitious companies that are actually trying to achieve something significant through their communications, a significant growth phase. So either an IPO or some kind of acquisition or another big round of funding. So it's a fun challenge, and we've been in business since, I can't believe it, 2010, and it's 15 years. So you
Fantastic,
know how time
fantastic.
flies when you're having fun.
No, exactly. No, well, it was great working with you in the past. We should declare that Sarah and I worked together with a major IP video company called Axis Communication, going back even further than that. So we're talking 2001, 2002, three, that sort of time, and beyond. So yeah, to get into the topic of the day. It seems to be a big one that's coming up on a lot of people's radars is customer advocacy. Um, and we're going to talk today about why customer advocacy has become such a phenomenon amongst particularly larger B2B tech, but to be honest, across the board, all sorts of businesses are working with their customers and seeing them as essentially their best advert. Why
Mhm.
is this happening? Um, and how best to do it is the essence of what we're going to be chatting about in the next half hour or so. So my first question, Sarah, is to look at why is customer advocacy proving to be such a vital weapon in the marketing and PR content and outreach arsenal right now? Um, and why is building trust in brands becoming such a big issue in that context?
Right. Well, a couple parts to this answer. The first of all is that customer advocacy has always been at the foundation of a good B2B PR and comms program. One of the very first, actually, the very first thing I ever did in my PR career, before I even knew what I was doing or what PR was to call a few customers on the phone of the company, the tech company that I was working for, back when we called people on the phone, and asked if they would be testimonial references for a product launch. And I was being heavily supervised in this activity by a real industry kind of leader in PR who was showing me the ropes. And it was the foundation of the launch. And the reason why it's so important, it's been so important throughout my career and is even more important today in this world of AI is that it is the number one ingredient for building trust. And trust is at an absolute all-time low right now, I think, for various reasons.
Is it worth getting into a little bit of that? I mean, is
Yeah,
this about technology, or is it just about the way the world's changing in a more generic sense?
I it's interesting. I mean, on the one hand, I think technology is actually B2B software is definitely has definitely improved a lot in meeting customer requirements and on a number of dimensions, including cost, usability, impact. I think B2B software has really improved, but it hasn't always been that way. There have always been really overblown claims that vendors have made about what they can offer. And I think and there's been a huge gap between the customer experience and what vendors have said about their products. And that built up over the years. So in some ways there's been a little bit of a, a trust deficit building up over the years. But I think today in the sort of AI world, and I'm I'm definitely staying neutral on my own sentiment towards AI because I think it has some really great things to offer, but it also has a lot of caveats. And some of the caveats today about AI is that there it's not always giving you reliable outcomes. So there's a lot of mistrust in some of the outcomes of AI. And also, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of hype. So that it's generated so much hype. um, and that is another ongoing syndrome in the B2B tech world, the sort of hype factor versus what the impact is. So I think I keep saying impact because that's where the rubber meets the road in a way. Like you can make things happen with technology, but that doesn't always translate into impact. And and it's actually the same
Mm,
in PR. Um,
mm.
you can do cool things. I remember one time I had a client that made a really cool keyboard out of fabric that you could attach to your phone and you could roll it up and it was portable, but like nobody needed one.
Yeah, yeah. Where was
So,
the market?
like they just
Yeah,
like, I just use my phone. I don't need to attach a keyboard to it. That's too fussy. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, so impact is so important. And just because you can do something doesn't really always mean that you should. And I think there's also maybe it's one of those perfect storm scenarios where there's a lot of different things happening at once. I think following COVID, there's been that has had a myriad of consequences and impact on the B2B market, B2B software market. It's already really complicated with a lot of different buyers involved in decisions. There's like 6 to 10 people at minimum in buyer groups, but there's often more. According to Gartner said like there's something like sometimes up to 23 different people involved in B2B. But when you have a lot of people now working virtually or in a kind of hybrid environment, some people are working from home, some people are in the office. It's very complicated. It really extra complicates that process. And
Yeah.
one of the things that is actually should be quite scary for buyers, I'm just looking up. So according to this Jolt Effect book, there's the consequences can be that 40 to 60% of losses aren't lost to competitors, they're lost to doing nothing.
Oh God.
So there's a real
Yeah.
kind of buyer paralysis.
It's taking too long, and it's just involving too many people,
Yeah,
which suggests that the communication challenge is bigger and more complicated than ever,
yeah,
particularly with these multi-faceted decision-making groups.
Yeah.
buyer groups.
Yeah.
So how does one map on a customer advocacy campaign onto that number of decision makers and do it in a way that's cost effective for a customer, even an enterprise customer that's got deep pockets or relatively deep pockets?
Yeah. I mean, that idea can already cause another kind of paralysis. Like, oh, it's just too hard. I don't think I'll do that. But I think I would definitely recommend that companies get started. Don't get paralyzed yourself because it is far better when it comes to customer advocacy. Doing something is better than doing nothing at all. And it's better just to it is better to get started with something that you can achieve. And what I'm and the most important thing to do, I think, in order to build trust with the customer is to start rather than start it with thinking, okay, I've got 16 different personas that I need to tailor content to. Really just start with the customer and start with what might be something that creates a win-win scenario. So one thing that can really help customers is to have some kind of content that they can use to um, promote the projects that they're working on with your software internally to their own stakeholders. So it's good to start with something like that, what helps the customer then be an advocate internally to other different stakeholder groups, and also helps to maybe drive internal usage of the software. Something so even if it might not be something that is the number one item on your wish list, start with what can really benefit the customer. And one of the things that we actually found can really be a good starting point
Mhm.
is to have like sometimes a customer really wants to motivate their own team because they've been working on something that's been quite complicated with your software and they have some really good outcomes. Sometimes we start with a really high quality industry award um, because in doing that, we actually generate so much content because some of those really high quality industry awards, and I emphasize the words high quality because some of them aren't, um, that have independent judging panels and multi-stage processes. In the process of doing that, you can get some really good content together. I would suggest that you should only do that if you really have a really award-winning project, because then if you can at least get shortlisted, that's a great way to celebrate the success of the project. And in doing so, you gather a lot of content that you can then use for other things. And it puts the customer in a good state of mind if they've worked on something quite positive that motivates their team, and then they might be willing to take something further. So it's about starting out
Mm.
with an anchor, like having a good anchor. Another thing that could be a good anchor could be like if you know of a kind of a publication that does really nice case studies and you can do a press interview and a really positive story that gives the project some really good visibility, then from there you can probably spin that out into other things or organize a podcast or a webinar where you can actually get a really good transcript of content that you can develop into other things. So it usually starts with one kind of anchor activity. That's usually what
Mm.
you do.
I mean, I like the idea of the industry award,
Yeah,
as you say, because that um, is a concentrated activity, does have a lot of spin-off additional content. Very often you'll have to produce a really good case study effectively for
yeah,
that. You
exactly.
might have to do video interviews. There might be a whole raft of things that will be created out of that. And then,
Yeah,
as you say, you've got something to celebrate that's very palpable
yeah,
as well as the content.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
that's a real feel-good factor to persuade that customer to carry on and commit to do more.
yeah.
No, that's really, really a good catalyst plan, I would think.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, so
Jen,
go with the low hanging fruit, but also
yeah,
the obvious successes from the point of view of the customer, not so much from the point of view of our customer necessarily,
yeah,
but what was achieved by the customer, and are they in a position where they can really celebrate it?
yeah.
If you can help
Another
them do that.
another one we did, which was really a successful anchor
Mm,
with a supply chain client, was to actually ghostwrite a case study, an extended case study article, not for our client, but for our client's customer. So it was their head of supply chain. We wrote the article for him. We interviewed him, wrote the article for him, so it came from him. That also meant we could plug the product because
yeah, of course. Brilliant.
which you can't normally do. And he was absolutely thrilled. And then he loved, because a lot of what you forget is a lot of times um, our clients might see this as a huge favor to ask, but a lot of times this head of supply chain wants to build up his or her own brand, and they want to have press coverage for their own reasons. And
Mm,
he's
mm, mm.
delighted with that. And he used it all the time. I saw him promoting it on LinkedIn. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, you
So
have to
that's a classic win-win, really, isn't it? Where
it's classic when he did five,
yeah.
six other things with us after that.
Oh,
So he was
brilliant,
so happy.
brilliant. Well,
So
well, it couldn't be a better advert for customer advocacy, really.
yeah,
What you're talking about there. And you've talked obviously about publications. Would you say that some of these review platforms are useful now for
and
particular audiences, etc.? I don't know a huge amount about them.
so the AI summary, you know how important the AI summaries are,
Yeah, yeah.
because the it's not all about SEO anymore. I mean, SEO matters, but you mainly get an AI summary now. And one of the things that contributes to the AI summary are review sites and customer content generally. So it can be customer content. It's somewhat useful to have the customer content on your own site. It's even more useful to have it on a partner site, but it's even more useful to have it on a review site like G2 um, or Trustpilot or whatever review sites are relevant in your space. Um, that gives you a lot more. And the interesting thing there too is that even though AI is technology, it's looking for human type content. So it really wants authenticity. It wants also metrics and really meaningful language, not just this was efficient. This was it added to our efficiency and productivity. But if you can say we onboarded our customers 3 times faster or something like that, then the AI ranks that higher when it comes to the AI summaries.
Well,
So
that's really interesting.
yeah,
So you're basically saying um, that we need to be writing pithy, pithy comments within case study material, within customer advocacy content,
yeah,
which kind of plays to those AI overviews, the position zero, as people like to call them.
yeah,
Um, so some of that is going to be about media coverage, but definitely review sites need to be considered, and the nature of the content we're producing might need to be a little bit sharper. Certainly, some more measurement in there, um, and some more evidence of sort of differentiating from the standard language, as you say, of efficiency and effectiveness and
yeah,
productivity without any real numbers associated with that.
yeah.
Um,
It's
well,
good.
that's a good point, isn't it, for marketeers to think about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, so so great. So the next thing I was thinking about was a sort of uh, building customer advocacy content journeys. What needs to be done in those journeys, and is there an end game to get your existing happy customers in the same room as your prospects? These customers who are becoming the advocates, are we making sure they're physically or at least in some way in touch with your prospect base?
Oh,
How do we make that happen? I suppose is what I was trying to think.
well, yeah. I don't have, I'm not a real expert on the sort of marketing side of the journeys, but what I've seen work really well with our clients is when we can get customers presenting on webinars or presenting at events um, on behalf of our customers. And we've the other good thing about that too is um, they also by doing that give us more content that we can build on. But yeah, I've got one client right now who just had a few big customers like HP and BT presenting on webinars. It gave us a huge amount of content, and they are by far the most popular webinars that the company produces. And so that works really well. And I have another
Mm.
client who really brings all their customers together for annual conferences. And I mean, it's so valuable. It always leads to sales. So on
Mm.
that side of things, it's really valuable. I think there is probably a lot more marketing science behind what you can do online. But
Yeah, I mean it's not surprising that people like AWS, now
yeah,
run their own summits where they get
yeah.
multiple integrators together with customers in a room,
Mhm.
sharing the positive success stories. And as you say, I'm sure it pays back
Yeah,
multiple times. And it's certainly something the partners really value.
yeah. And these
Um,
these events are getting a lot better, I think. Something changed at one. There has been a bit of an authenticity push in the last few years, and I think the presentations are just getting better. We're not like killed by PowerPoints all the time and kind of really sort of boring. People are getting better at it. I don't know. It seems to be more effective.
yes, and I wonder whether this thing about human stories and sort of digestible benefits has fed through to the way people present. I mean, certainly when I attend these sort of conferences, very often online,
Mhm.
it's all about the use cases. If they
Yeah,
can't talk customers, then they're certainly talking use cases
yeah,
um, all the time, and it's certainly, for everyone, I think it's just slightly easier to understand what the benefits are all about when you're talking about this type of customer doing this and this is their challenge, and
yeah,
suddenly, you're telling a story which people immediately lock into.
yeah.
So maybe customer advocacy is as much about storytelling as anything else.
It
And
absolutely is. And
mm,
it's so important to let the customer tell the story the way they want to. And one of the sort of mistakes that I see companies making is trying to wedge everyone into their template all the time. And
yeah.
I get it, but also don't do that.
Absolutely.
Because,
Yeah, well, I think it's come on a little bit because I think there was a time with case studies when we had to be promoting specific product, which was
yeah,
definitely a sort of hamstringing thing because we were forever talking about this particular rather anonymous product.
yeah,
Whereas actually what we wanted to be talking about is what the customer has done with said product or service, and where they've taken the business and what the future is as a result of it.
yeah,
And you're right. So I think we've got better at a lot of that.
yeah,
But templates are a problem because what you want is the authenticity. You
yeah.
actually want the warts and all.
And also,
Um,
you can really learn a lot about where your own value is. Like we worked on a customer story with a client recently, and the woman we interviewed just raved about the customer support. Like it was incredible. And customer support is notoriously poor in a lot of B2B software companies. So we just wanted to tell we wanted to highlight the story, and then there can be a little bit of tension because the product people will say, well, we didn't really mention this product enough. Like, it's okay. It really is okay. It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay to talk about the company as a whole and what and
Yeah.
how you're surrounding the customer with a lot of support and assistance.
Yeah, because there
Um,
will be the personas who will think, okay, that's the company that I want to do business with because I've had so many support nightmares. Um,
yes.
so yeah,
So they're buying a culture as well as a product. They're buying a can-do attitude or whatever it is that's important to them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's very interesting. So the softer issues, the human issues,
yeah.
are just as important. Yeah, so moving on a little bit further into the value of earned media. I was
Mhm.
reading um, one of our friends in the PR world who was talking about the value of earned media going up and up as a result of this sort of crisis of trust, if you like, which we've been talking about. Are you seeing some of that as well? I mean, are people responding more to hard hitting sort of tier one trade coverage?
Earned media is really important right now, but there's a lot less of it with that's authoritative and will kind of contribute to your your visibility online, which is so important right now. So I it's in a way we're going back to a time when earned media was sort of a really high priority. We went through a period where it's been de-emphasized for a little while, but now we're going back to it because again, going back to the to the AI summaries, one of the most important criteria for getting mentioned in those summaries within your product category is how much coverage you've had on authoritative media sources. Um, Interestingly, though, if it's behind a firewall, it might not
Might
factor
not be
in.
red, might not
So
be
you're
crawled.
thinking,
Yeah.
okay, I really want to be in the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, which everyone, of course, does. And I wouldn't say that you should stop doing that.
Mm.
But not all that content will be findable for the
Yes,
if
yes.
you get
So
into it.
you're better off in the Daily Mail or the Express,
Yeah,
or This Is
or
Money,
or
or whatever
like
it is.
yeah, what we tell our clients is those industry journals are really important. Um, there's because there's a lot of very high quality thought leadership content in there that has a good, strong authority and is trusted content. So like high quality industry vertical publications are quite valuable still. So
Mm,
yeah. Um,
mm.
so yeah, we earned media is quite important. It's very difficult to to get the kind of coverage that we used to like the kind if you're thinking of volume of coverage, we shouldn't compare it to the kind of volumes we got 10
No,
years ago.
no.
It's
The old-fashioned thud factor is not quite the measure anymore. Yeah, it's just a few key pieces of coverage based on a few key pieces of content
yeah,
is
it's
maybe what how we need to manage it. Yes.
quality is much more relevant right now than quantity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're going to have to work a bit harder for that top coverage, but yeah, don't get obsessed about boiling the ocean. Just
yeah,
focus on a few key journalists and a few key pieces of content, and probably customer case studies are going to be part of that,
yeah,
by the sounds of it. And
definitely.
I had a slightly different question, which was to do with more neutral bulletin boards. So stepping away from editorial a little bit, possibly into um, other specialist groups. I mean, have you seen that playing out in some of the PR work you're doing in terms of reaching specific decision makers, for example?
Especially for the like developer audiences. We work with a lot of um, companies, or we have worked with a lot of companies over the years that um, we'd call developer-led software companies. So developer audiences are really important. But the the thing with developers is they don't want to hear about stuff from PR people or marketing people. They don't trust them. That's why you have these developer advocates within companies now. And the places where they might look to for authoritative content would be in things like Hacker News or Stack Overflow or Reddit or these sources. And they are really, really useful. And what we do is with our clients is we don't really we won't write stuff for those channels because we won't have the right right um, language and tone for them. But we just recommend a strategy where the developer advocates are reaching out to those in their way to comment and post.
Fantastic. So you're sort of giving them a sort of support package and saying it's going to be best stroke the most authentic way to deal with this communication if you're actually doing it, talking to your peers or writing to your peers.
Absolutely. And they
Um,
do, and it works really well. And that really does also contribute to AI summaries. They look into those spaces.
Well,
Jackie.
it's interesting in a way that the sort of our relentless or increasing relentless focus on trust and authenticity is taking us in slightly different directions,
Mhm.
and it seems to be taking us um it's almost back to what the communications theory. You in an ideal world you've got two-way communications going on. You've got a flow of communication backwards and forwards,
Mhm.
to a point where each party understands each other better and is educated in the process. And it seems to be exactly what's beginning to happen.
Yeah.
And so if PR people are the enablers of that, then I would have thought that's a great development for PR, to be honest.
Yeah.
Rather than us trying to control everything, we create the tools for the right people to be doing the right communication almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than ever, PR people should think about themselves as being um, coaches and mentors because and enablers, as you said,
Mm,
because there are a lot of people, especially in the tech space. But we have to know communications isn't their natural skill. I mean, it's so hard for us to easy for us to forget that because this is what we do for a living. But I've found that the people that we work with are extremely grateful for the most part when we give them what I consider to be pretty simple guidance on, the how to communicate within their channels and then let them do it and they get a huge amount of satisfaction and confidence from doing that.
absolutely. They
Yeah.
might end up getting another job as well in the process.
That has happened. We worked with
Mm,
a really wonderful kind of developer, a young woman at one of our clients a few years ago, and we got her we coached her on doing short talks at developer conferences and some contributed content to her communities and stuff. And then she did get a lot of visibility, and then she was recruited by Amazon. And
there you go.
she went there for a few years, but then she went back to the company. She decided
Mm,
she just wanted to get another range of experience, but then she really did like the other company better, so she went back to
mm.
it. So that kind of ended up well.
Yeah, that was a nice finish. Exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so for companies now who are thinking about embracing customer advocacy,
Hmm.
um, I've still got the words that you started with, which was, just get started, it ringing in my ears. Um, but are there any war stories? Are there any sort of don'ts that you would particularly point up? Things where, hasn't quite worked for X or Y reason.
In the SaaS world or software as a service world, subscription software world, you have to be really careful to approach the customer at the right time. If you're renegotiating something, an annual subscription or some kind of upselling or expand, land and expand thing, we have to do it at the right time because some people will obviously say, well, I want a discount or whatever. It can be a negotiating thing, which is why my number 2 point is don't position it as I'm asking you for a huge favor. Salespeople can often get that in their head. Like, this is a huge favor. And it has a kind of commercial value. So they they might put it even into a contract in writing. Like they might, I wouldn't recommend doing that. What we can do now today, because a lot of people understand how valuable it can be to build up one's own brand or to promote the success of their team. As long as you do it at the right time, we can position this as a win-win. And I really, really, I learned this and from somebody else in the industry who I really respect, a woman called Claire Groves, who was the customer advocacy head at Salesforce, and now she's in her own business now. That was always her mantra, like, do not position this as a favor. If it's not a win-win, we shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. So
That's really interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
because very often, certainly in the early days of case study writing, as you say, you were sort of tasked with getting,
Mm,
10 case studies written or whatever. And some of those, absolutely right, were not the right customers at the right time,
yeah.
or the leadership had suddenly changed, or something had happened where it was totally inappropriate for you or I to be on the phone trying to persuade them to do a case study at that point.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
salespeople likewise. So absolutely. So timing is everything.
Timing is everything. And the
Mm.
other thing is, and I did touch on this a bit earlier, is let the customer tell their story, especially if you're just doing that first anchor piece, because then you build up the trust. If they see something back that they have that reflects the conversation that you had, the intake conversation, they're going to trust you. So err on the side of doing it their way in the first case, because then you'll build the trust up. Then you can sort of start to kind of ask for more. Could we possibly introduce this new AI tech thing that we're trying to sell?
Can we pilot this with
Work this
you and then
stuff.
come back to you in a
Yeah,
few weeks? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Then they'll be much more
Mm.
amenable to it. But if you don't respect the language and the messaging tone that they used with you in the first place, you might not get to do anything else. And I have been in that situation before where you sometimes get all these different, sometimes when the customer is a really big one, like lots of different people want to get involved in the case study. And then it starts to look completely different to what the customer has originally briefed you on. And then they can get offended by that and they might not trust you and want to work with you anymore. So just keep to the customer story in the beginning, and if you want to ask for more sort of adaptations over time, just do it like that.
Do it by stages
Yeah,
rather than frightening either party with with a sort of bloat effect. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, isn't it?
yeah,
Not to shock anyone
yeah,
with the output. Take them with you.
yeah.
Um,
And respect their processes. Like, make sure that you find out what their internal process is. Don't assume that you're working with that one person, so they're the only people that need to sign it off. And even though that sounds pretty obvious, you'd be surprised at how often you find out at the very last minute, oh, this has to go to 10,000.
yeah, yes, I've been in the middle of that with actually with a video case study where it had been signed off by the head of security, the CISO, but it turned out there was a new CEO that wanted to look at it, and of course, what does she do? She said, that's not going out.
Yeah,
So yeah, it can go horribly wrong if you don't clear the hurdles with all the stakeholders.
yeah, absolutely.
I've certainly learned a lot. It's a good old favorite of mine, that this topic. I mean, I like the sort of rebranding of it. I don't quite know how the phrase customer advocacy arrived.
I don't know where it came from either. I looked it up. I tried finding out, but I just probably America.
Yeah, it's almost certainly America, because they're good at inventing new phrases and words and acronyms. So it's almost certainly them.
Yeah.
But good on them, because I think it's a good way of refreshing an absolutely vital element in any marketing content mix. And it sounds like it's just become more important because of the changing landscape. So thank you very much indeed for your time, Sarah.
Oh, it's been a
Um,
pleasure, Miles. I love talking about this topic. So thanks for
yeah,
inviting me to your
no, it's
podcast.
really, really kind of you to spend an hour with us. And I will put this up. We'll have a quick review, and I'll put it up into my YouTube space, and across into the website, and you're more than welcome to have a full edited copy of it once we've done all that.